Hey everybody, Hawk here. I'm delayed, I know. I've been playing Monster Hunter and I'm probably going to do a video about that and I'm kind of working on it. But Shad just uploaded a video and I gotta talk about it. Largely because it's fine, broadly speaking. It's totally fine, but Shad's not a ginormous Star Wars nerd. I mean, he's a general Star Wars nerd, but I don't think he's played KOTOR or several other games, so I think he's missing a whole bunch of context, which is fine. I don't expect him not to know this. I mean, some of the crap I'm going to talk about in here is in pretty much only the Star Wars tabletop RPGs and a couple of the video games. I think like in Galaxies and stuff. So we're talking like some crap that unless you're like buried in Star Wars, you're probably not going to know. So that's totally fair. So, first things we're talking about is that he's, for those of you that have no idea and are somehow not subscribed to Shad but subscribed to me, firstly go over there and subscribe to Shad, because if you like me, you're going to like Shad. None of this out of the way. He's talking about the Mandalorian armor from the show The Mandalorian. Great. It's a pretty stock standard, well, as much as stock standard applies to Mandalorian armor, there's broad categories of light, heavy, or light, medium, heavy. Those are stupidly broad categories. I'm not going to go any farther than that because every Mandalorian armor is basically unique to that Mandalorian. Yes, even all of the stuff from the Death Watch and the Neo Crusaders, who all look the same, that's all unique armor to them. They've personalized it. That's a Mandalorian quirk. It's really cool. Also annoying as hell if you happen to be the armor, because you have to fix all of everyone's stupid unique armor. But that's neither here nor there. So, Chad was talking about this, and I'm just going to go down roughly the order he went in. So first talking about the helmet. He said the helmet's great. The helmet is great. It is overall awesome. Things he didn't seem to know, he was pretty sure there was a HUD in there. There is. Mandalorian helmets are, I'm going to compare them to clone armor, because clone armor and Mandalorian armor is extremely similar, because the Kaminoans based clone armor off of Mandalorian armor, because Jango's Mandalorian, so inside of the helmets, for clones specifically, they had full vision. Like, I'm not kidding, they would project full 360-degree vision like there is no helmet. I don't know how you get 360-degree, like, I'm assuming, like, it's if you turn your head and your helmet doesn't turn with you, there's stuff over here yet, is my guess. But you can see. If you play Republic Commandos, which you should, it's an amazing game, you put the helmet on and it's basically a screen sitting right in front of your face. I'm assuming it's like the whole helmet, so it's just you, like, right, I'm not even kidding, like, those little nodules I got down here, I'm going to assume they're gas masks, or they're for breathing purposes, the filters, gas masks, the filters on their helmet. It lines up with the shape of the helmet. The HUD does, and I'm aware that's a game thing, but that is kind of how they're portrayed. Like when they're putting the helmet on, it pings on, and you see this. This is in fact a thing that you can see. So you get all your little data down here, and you're walking. I'm assuming it's some cool peripheral vision trick thing that I'm walking, so I'm wearing the helmet, and it looks like it's floating like way out in front of me so I can clearly see it, but it's actually like right in front of my face. Probably just some neat trick. I'm sure we could do it now if you were to get a VR headset that could respond that fast. Now, of course, Mandalorians being Mandalorians and being eminently practical, I can guarantee you they can see out of those vision slits, even if by some act of God the power goes out in their helmet. So, yeah, helmet's great. Don't really need to talk about it anymore. Just kind of elaborating and confirming Shad's suspicion that, yes, there's a HUD in there. There's a whole big screen and you can see. Fine, it's great. Okay, on to the next part, which is the Pauldrons. I've never worn a suit of full plate. My lamellar doesn't work. I was testing this out with my leather Pauldrons, and it doesn't really work either. Basically, my theory as to why they aren't going with full plate Pauldrons, this is a guess. I am aware that full plate doesn't fully restrict your movement, but my guess is that putting a rifle up in full plate just kinda sucks. Now, the Neo Crusaders are wearing really hefty armor and they can kind of use guns. But they're still, it's not linked, there's still little gaps in their armor to there. The other reason is he's poor. Poor. He just doesn't have the money for bigger Pauldrons, and this is fine. He's perfectly happy with this. And this is going to go right into Chad's next point where he's like, well, there's all these massive gaps. Yes, but no. There are massive gaps in between his nice big plates of metal. There's no actual gap in the armor, though, because I can almost guarantee this. They're not going to explicitly state it, and I doubt they're ever going to explicitly state it, because I don't think it's ever fully mentioned anywhere. He's wearing armor weave. Or blast weave. I've seen it called both, but it's mostly armor weave. This is pretty much exclusively from games. I can't actually think of a novel it gets mentioned in. It might be mentioned in a novel somewhere. I'm not 100% positive on that one. I've never read a novel that mentions armor weave. Not the point, but armor weave is pretty much Star Wars Kevlar weave. Like, it's bulletproof cloth. Well, it's blaster bolt proof cloth. Or I shouldn't say that either. It's blaster resistant cloth, meaning it can take a couple of blaster bolts and you can kind of get some really nice stuff that will actually take like a lot and will in fact resist lightsabers, because lightsabers are just energy weapons. So if you get really good stuff, you're fine. And honestly, what it's covering is here. I mean, it's covering his sides, which is kind of important, but frankly, he's moving around a lot and still using cover, so this isn't that big of a deal. I'm going to get to that in a second. But basically, he's going to get whacked, maybe like, oh crap, I got hit here. Well, that sucks. I now have a really big honking bruise because I got nailed with a plasma bolt. That sucks. But the armor weave might be gone, like it might burn away, but he will be fine on the arm, which is the important part here. So, he is wearing armor. It's okay. Don't expect you to know that, Shad. It's totally fine. Again, I know of that from the tabletop RPG. I think it's in KOTOR, and I'm pretty sure it was in Star Wars Galaxies. I don't even think it's in Tor, which is the Old Republic, by the way. I'm not calling it SWTOR, it's Tor. Just whatever. Frankly, I don't know what other games it's in. Yeah, that's about all I know of, frankly. That's where it is. So, if that's where it is, and if you didn't play that, don't blame me for not knowing that. It's perfectly great. Great stuff. Awesome. Now we're moving on to the chess piece thing. Now, Shad's thinking in a medieval context. Clearly, it's Shad's thing. That's what he does. And in a medieval context, the Mandalorian is under-armored. He doesn't have a ton of armor on. In a context of I'm shooting bullets and laser bolts at people, blaster bolts or plasma bolts technically, at people, he has got a crap load of armor on. Alright? Up here is a picture of a plate carrier, which is a fairly standard piece of modern body armor. The Mandalorian is wearing a lot of armor in comparison to that. He's got shoulder pads, he's got the full chest covering in the front here. It stops around his belly button-ish, but that's probably still fine because he's still got armor weave. And honestly, aiming at center mass is not your gut. Center mass is about your sternum. And that is very well covered on him. And you just flick it up, and that's kind of where it's going. Could it be better? Sure, but let's be honest, modern militaries aren't wearing anything that heavy, so he's fine. Everything else, honestly, he's going to get heavier than this. I'm going to assume he's wearing a backplate largely because I don't think I've ever seen a Mandalorian wear the chest piece and not have a matching backplate. I don't see one. I looked at some pictures. I have not watched the show, by the way. I'm just going to wait for it all to be done, and then I will go watch the season on their my 1 month free trial, because I'm not paying, because I don't care enough for one episode, or one show, I should say. So I'm just going off of pictures on the internet, and every picture I see is he's wearing a cloak, which, great, wear a cloak, it's totally fine. But they're probably wearing the cloak so they don't have to make a backplate for him. It's just making the costume cheaper if we're going for meta reasons. In universe, I'm willing to bet he's got a backplate on. I think it'd be a little weird if he didn't, and the only explanation is he doesn't have enough money, which is a little odd. So there's that. Now that's pretty much all of Shad's complaints with the armor. It's not actually all that much, and he's comparing it to medieval armor, not modern armor, and frankly it should be compared to modern armor, in which case he's wearing a crap load of armor. Now Star Wars does have melee, so getting shanked is a concern, but even that, he's wearing a Beskar chest piece. I'm now going to fanboy about Beskar for a bit here, because Mandalorians are my absolute favorite culture in all of Star Wars. I think they're a party, and I'm sad that every time Mandalorians get shown in anything, they're always humans, and completely ignoring the fact that Mandalorian is a culture, not a race or species. Yes, you can totally have a Wookiee Mandalorian. Theoretically. Somehow a Mandalorian has to adopt a Wookiee, but that's how this works. Mandalorians are an adoptive culture. They will adopt people into it, and you can be a Mandalorian. You can become a Mandalorian if you so choose. They're going to give you a whole hell of a lot of grief until you've proven yourself. But hey, you can do it. Now, Beskar is ridiculous. It is lightsaber proof. Not resistant. Proof. Like, the only way you're getting through it once it's treated is by literally holding your lightsaber to it and slowly melting your way through it. Yes, that's not technically proof, but for all actual intents and purposes, that is proof. That takes so long it doesn't even matter. This is why it's also blaster proof. You can get smacked by that and it just... It's done. It doesn't matter. You're not getting through it. Beskar is blaster proof, unless we're talking about a turbo laser, which I'm going to point this out. Most lasers in... And yes, I'm doing this. Don't think it's Dr. Evil. Yeah. The lasers are not actual lasers. They're plasma blasts. They use a gas, usually called Tabana gas. There's other gases you can use, but Tabana gas is the most common one. Stuff the sucker in there, superheat it, and you throw it at somebody. That's it. It's a plasma bolt. So, Beskar is that proof. It's also slug proof. It's lightsaber proof. It's vibroblade proof. It's everything proof. Seriously, if you encase yourself in this, you're gonna walk around just going, what are you gonna do to me? It's awesome and I love it. It's also expensive as all hell, which is why his helmet and his chest piece are the only things he's got right now, and I'm hoping he kind of goes for the full Jango outfit, because I really like Jango's armor. That's more of the medium quality. Boba's wearing the light version. Okay, so... other stuff Shad talked about, confirming his suspicions broadly. This isn't ever explicitly stated out, but generally speaking, a blaster has... I have a blaster copy over here. Well, whatever. It's my blaster. Okay, so shooting across the room is fine. I'm not really losing a whole lot of energy here. And from what I saw of the giant firefight in The Mandalorian, they were fighting in a courtyard like it's a Western. Great. And I think they were mostly, I don't think anyone was using really big rifles. I think they were using smaller sporting style rifles, which is fine. They're easy to get. But blasters do have a maximum range. Now, you're all going, wait, guns have maximum ranges. Yes, they do! Really different than a blaster bolt, though. Because a blaster bolt, you just shoot. You shoot, and it, I shot in this direction. It's going to go in this direction until it hits something, or it reaches its maximum range and dissipates. Now, while the tabletop games have never gone, you lose damage as it goes on, they're also an extrapolation, so I don't think it's unreasonable to go, okay, yeah, I'm going to lose some penetrative power on armor on this. So when he just bang point blank with his gun, yeah, that's going to have more oomph. That's also true for bullets, by the way. If it's point blank, it has more oomph than if I'm 30 feet away. It's just physics. So, it's going to have more oomph, and it does technically lose some. It doesn't lose a whole crap load. This is why, however, if you ever notice the giant sniper weapons in Star Wars, they have the giant barrels, and you're like, wait, it's a blaster bolt. Why does it look like that? And it's not just the prop department. It is the prop department, but the whole point is they explain it in universe, is that it needs more focusing lenses. So a sniper blaster rifle has a crap load. And I mean like a crap load. It's got, that whole barrel is basically focusing lenses to keep the beam cohesive. So they shrink that sucker down real small so it can stay together longer and go farther. This is actually why slug throwers have a point. Now, slug thrower is, of course, anything that we would consider a modern gun. That is a slug thrower by definition. Slug throwers, in fact, have points. They have a longer maximum range than blaster rifles because you can lob them. Now, that, of course, has its own issues because they actually are affected by gravity and they will drop, whereas blaster bolts don't because there's not enough weight for it to matter, so it just kind of goes until it runs out of energy, which means they have much shorter maximum ranges. A slug thrower, on the other hand, outside of most of the tabletop games, by the way, because they're trying to keep those relatively fair, and slug throwers have different advantages, like fancy ammos. Slug throwers' advantage is primarily, I could shoot at you at a mile if I knew what I'm doing. It's a very, very complex skill to shoot at that range, but if you can, congratulations, most people aren't going to be able to touch you. because most blaster weapons don't have that kind of range. I'm sure there's some fancy blaster rifle that has a mile range, but normal guns have issues aiming accurately at that point. So yes, blaster weapons have maximum ranges. They dissipate at a set distance. Pretty much spot on inferring this. Now I'm going to just quickly jump into the shield thing. Yeah, Shad's right. It's a little weird that you're not getting personal shields. This is actually explained from KOTOR. Now in KOTOR, they have shields. You can totally run around in shields because they, well, wanted you to not die horribly to blaster fire, so duh. This is explained because blasters are weaker back then. They had pulse weapons and things like that, which are really, really nasty in close range, but they die off real fast once you get past that. I happen to like pulse weapons. They're kind of cool. But blasters are definitely better, and blasters have technically been getting more powerful as time has gone on. It's just armor has also gone up. However, he's right on this one, actually. When you wear the shield and you need to turn it on in order to protect you from blaster bolts, modern blasters are so potent that the radiation coming off of that thing is going to kill you if it stays on too long. Now, the solution to this is, A, wear a full suit of armor and then, in full armor. Like, Mandalorians will have shields on theirs because they're fully encased in at least somewhat radiation-dissipating material, so they're kind of okay for higher voltages, or higher ratings of shields. So that's how they kind of get around it. Other people get around this by just turning it on briefly. You just, I'm going to get into a fight. Click! It's, oh dear, blaster bolts are firing. Click! This will be on for about 2 minutes, and then it will automatically shut itself off. Otherwise, it gets too bad, and I'm going to take severe damage. Anything up to this point is fixable, so it's not a big deal. Just go take a bath, and you'll be fine. But, yes, Shad is completely correct in that, in his assumption that the reason why is the radiation is too high. You can wear weaker shields, but they'll be good for, like, one blaster bolt, and everyone's like, I have this big stupid shield belt on, and that's really dumb for one blaster bolt, so bleh. I'll just wear actual armor if I'm concerned about getting shot. Totally fair, and it's an entirely understandable thing to just look at and go, that's really weird, because it is kind of weird, but they realized that they had added shields previously, and now they need an explanation for why people aren't running around with them in the future. Now ending with the Stormtrooper thing, okay? Firstly, I'm pretty sure Shad is aware that the reason the Stormtroopers couldn't hit anybody in there is because they were letting them go in A New Hope. Yes, the Stormtroopers did that on purpose. This does not, of course, explain why they generally suck when not firing at the main characters. I have two explanations for this. One is in-universe, one is out-of-universe. Out-of-universe is simple. It's pulp fantasy. This is a pulp space fantasy story. Everything's over the top. You need armies of mooks to make the heroes look badass, and the mooks need to suck. So, there it is. That's just the explanation. They suck when they're fighting them because of the genre we're in. That's not a very satisfying answer. So I'll give you the actual in-universe answer. They're using a stockless rifle. Okay? They're using the E11 blaster rifle, which, by the way, is supposed to have a stock, but does not have a stock. Like, sometimes you'll see ones with foldables. Like, I've actually held on to prop versions of these. It's awkward. Just, you're holding it up, and it's all this weight. It's basically a giant pistol. That's why when you see Luke doing this, I'm like, that's probably way smarter. But then if you actually look at the Stormtroopers, they kind of can't. They can kind of get their arms up here, but this would be so uncomfortable. I've talked to Stormtrooper cosplayers. It is very uncomfortable. So they're like, I don't like this. This really sucks. So yeah, the Stormtrooper armor has issues. It has a lot of issues, okay? It has so many issues, it has subscriptions at this point. But beyond mobility, now the reason why it's got mobility issues is it's actually vacuum sealed. Or it's supposed to be. I mean, I know the helmet's not actually attached, but just pretend for a moment. In all the lore, it's vacuum sealed. Blame their budget for it not being able to actually, like, have a thing on the bottom to kind of look like it's sticking onto the little neck stub. That's what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to go click on and go psst, and then it sticks. So Stormtroopers have a lack of mobility because of that. If you look at clone armor, it's definitely better. So it's not quite that big of an issue. But if you also look at the clones totally have better guns. Also way better training and just overall, like, the 501st makes fun of all the new Stormtroopers because they suck. They're just not as good because they're not as well trained. Which is, of course, issues. But pushing that aside. Alright, so the stock thing is the big reason. Also, their helmets have terrible visibility, but out of the way. Last one, making fun of Stormtrooper armor being crap. It's not great. It's not as bad as it seems, but it's not great either. Not meant to be. It's a I believe a plastoid composite. So it's a sort of, it's plastic. It's a big fancy plastic thing. And it is blaster resistant, not blaster proof. And the reason for this is that the Empire just doesn't want them to die. They're like, okay, he's out cold. Because that's what happens, actually. They get hit, it'll dissipate a bunch of the energy, the body glove under it will dissipate a fair amount of energy, and anything that gets hit with the rest of him, he's probably fine. He's probably not dead, he's probably alright. He'll just fall over, be unconscious, and we can pick him up later. And great, we've got more than enough dudes, we're good. It's totally alright. Which looks really dumb on screen because you're pretty sure they're dead. But most of them probably aren't actually dead, they're probably just temporary casualties, and that's fixable in short order. So Stormtrooper armor is okay. It's not great. Most of the tabletop games, it's mid-range armor. If you can get your hands on it, it's not half bad, actually. It's got a whole bunch of neat stuff in it. The helmets are... If you get a decent helmet, if you get one of the nice helmets, it's fine again, but they kind of skimped on things because the Empire went for cheap. This is why TIE fighters are the way they are. The Emperor was an utter cheap ass. But yeah, so Stormtroopers are that way. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, they are completely bulletproof. Like Sluggers, whack! It's not going to do crap. Tusken Raiders shoot at the Sand Troopers all the time, and it doesn't do anything to them. They're just like, can you please stop? This is a noise. Whack! Can you knock it? Stop it! Stop shooting me! That's pretty much what happens. So, I think that's everything. It's pretty much covered all of the important bits here. And again, this is all a bunch of really random lore that you pick up over time and generally by playing older games. Kind of don't blame Shad for not knowing a bunch of this. Like, again, Armor Weave. Who knows Armor Weave who hasn't played KOTOR, the basic tabletop games, or Galaxies? If you're not in one of these groups, I don't blame you for that. And even the KOTOR people probably don't really remember Armor Weave. It's just, oh, it's that light armor I was wearing for a while. Don't blame you for not remembering it, because there was way cooler armor you got later, like cool Jedi armor and stuff. So, yeah, don't blame anyone for not remembering that. But, yeah, it's great. Mandalorian armor, overall, fantastic. Good stuff. When compared to modern armor, which is what it probably should be, because especially, particularly in the age the Mandalorian's running around in, which I don't know if this is actually post-Endor or not. I don't know when this particular show takes place. I'm going to guess it's during the Dark Times, which is the height of the Empire, but I'm probably wrong. Take it for what it's worth. But even if it's around that era, there's not a lot of melee combat. It's a lot of shooting, so it reflecting modern armor makes more sense, so he doesn't need, full side armor, because he's in cover. That's like, he's gonna hide behind cover and pop out and shoot people, and this is just so, okay, hey, I'm leaning out now, this part's safe, my shoulder is safe, my wrist up here is safe. The only thing you can really, look at how I'm kind of sitting here, let's say this is my line. What's actually exposed? My van brace is covering most of my arm, my shoulder here is safe, my helmet is protecting this, and my chest piece is right here, because it goes out to here. So I'm fine. I mean, the only thing you can hit down here is this thing, but you're aiming up here, because this is where the blaster bolts are coming from. So, if you compare it to modern, good stuff. Compared to medieval, it's definitely lacking because you're trying not to get stabbed and the guy's right here, not 50, 60 feet away taking shots at you when everyone's running around going, holy crap, there's blaster bolts flying everywhere. So, hope you all enjoyed that. Remember to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below. And again, if you somehow are not subscribed to Shad and subscribed to me, get over there. What are you doing? So, hope you all have a fun turkey day. Peace out, everybody.